Hi, my name is Ben. I've spent the last 10 years in talent acquisition. I've spent some of that on the corporate recruiting side, some of that on the agency side, and today I'm going to take what I've learned during that time and I'm going to help you nail your next video interview. So the first thing, I've got a handful of tips that I think are going to be helpful. If you are new to the channel, welcome. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. I answer all comments. And if you're not new, welcome back. Today I want to give you 7 different tips that are going to help you do really well in your next video interview. They're a lot like a phone interview, but they're obviously different because of the visual element. And I'm going to take you through 7 things. Stick around for the very end because the last tip is I'm going to talk about everything you need to do from a visual standpoint to make sure you're spot on. So the first one, be home and be in a quiet place. There are a lot of people who go, you know what, I'm gonna go somewhere, I'm gonna go to a library, I'm gonna go to a coffee shop, I'm gonna go somewhere. You're just inviting disaster if you're doing that. So what I would do is I would find, a room in your house. If you can go into a bedroom, an office, an area 100% can be closed and nobody will be coming in. The last thing you wanna do is be 15 minutes into an interview and you hear a knock. And all of a sudden you're, excuse me, it's gonna throw you off your game. So one of the things that you want to do during any interview, but I think it's especially important when people can see you, is eliminate distraction and eliminate anything like that. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2, reliable equipment. If you take your cell phone and you go to, the Apple App Store, you can find Zoom. You can find a Zoom app, you can download it, and you could take an interview from your hand. You should not do it. You want to use reliable equipment. You want to use, a laptop or a desktop only. Do not use an iPad. Do not use an Android. Do not use an iPhone. You just don't want to do that. A myriad of things could go wrong. They could run out of battery. And just in terms of visually, it's not the same. It's not the same as having the laptop or a desktop. So again, you can do it. Unless you absolutely have to, I would advise against that. So 3, dress the part. This is still an interview. You may be at home, you don't have to dress like you're at home. So, if you're me and you have a reliable black V-neck you like to wear, I'd probably skip that. I would go at a bare minimum, as a man, I would go button-up shirt, as a woman, nice blouse, and throw on the jacket. It doesn't hurt to throw on a blazer. I don't know if I'd go tie. One of the things that I might recommend doing is asking a recruiter. So if you're talking with a hiring manager, but you've already had a phone conversation with a recruiter, shoot them an email and saying, hey, what's an appropriate attire for this interview? It may seem like an odd question, but it's one of those things where it's better to ask and be right than not ask and be wrong. The next thing, I'm gonna call this rule of 3. And by that I mean you need to have 3 different things that are visible to you while you are interviewing. And I would even print them out. So the first, you want to have your resume. You want to have your resume visible to you. One of the things they might ask you to do is talk through your resume. Your home, you have the luxury of having something printed out, or if you have multiple monitors, if you're fancy like that, have them loaded up there. The next thing I would have is I would have the job description. So if you have a printer or access to one, print out the job description, look at the qualifications, and then next to every qualification, write down how your experience corresponds with that, right? So if they say 5 years of experience in sales and you have 8 years of experience in sales, write down on the job description that you printed out, I have 8 years of experience in sales. That way, as they go through, if they're talking to it, you know how you're qualified relative to the things they are requesting from you. And the last thing I would have is the questions I want to ask the hiring team. I would have them either written out or printed out in front of you. If you have watched any of my videos, you probably know how passionate I am about you as a candidate coming to the table with questions to ask. I have 2 videos, I'll link them below in the comments, 5 questions to ask your hiring manager. So I'll put those in there, but write down your questions. That way you can look down and access them. They're gonna at some point say to you, Ben, do you have any questions? And you'll be, yeah, actually I wrote a few down. If you don't mind, I'm gonna reference them. And they'll say, okay, great. And then you can talk through them. But I'd be prepared that way. The last thing you wanna be is on the spot, maybe a little bit nervous. They go, do you have any questions for us? And you go, I don't. Don't let that be you. The next question, preparation is key. So for this, what do I mean by that? So, you know, we want to be talking about removing distractions. So, right, so being in a room, you know, where you won't be distracted. You want to make sure that the angle is right on your computer and laptop, and we'll talk a little bit about angle, lighting, etc. at the very end of this video. But you also want to test, right? Say they're going to be on Zoom, say they're going to be on Skype. You can test to make sure it's working. The last thing you want to do is 2 minutes before your interview, log on and realize you need an update or something like that. So beforehand, make sure you actually log in. Bonus tip here, I have a Zoom line and I interview people for my team via Zoom line, and I get an email every time someone actually accesses that Zoom line. So if you do it the night before, odds are that person who's going to be interviewing you is going to get an email notification letting them know that you are accessing their line. For me, it lets me know that they're preparing, right? And they're thinking ahead. And I actually kind of like it. So do it two days before, and do it in the evening. It's the same Zoom line they might be using for other things, like other meetings. The last thing you want to do is jump on their Zoom line midday just to find out they're already in another Zoom meeting with somebody else. That could be really awkward and not the way you want to start your interview. The next one, you want to monitor your reactions. So think about the different questions they might ask you so you're not surprised at any point. You know, if they're going to ask you tough questions, right? Like, why do you have this gap in your resume? Or why are you looking for a new job? Or tell me about what you're looking for compensation-wise. They're going to see you. So if you react like, you know, you're like, oh no, you're a little bit nervous, they're visually going to be able to see that. In a phone interview, they have no idea if you're a little taken aback. But if they ask you a question you weren't ready for and it throws you off your game and they can see that visually while you're in a phone interview, that's not a good thing for you. So I would always tell people to be prepared to answer some of the tough questions and monitor your visual reaction to it. The last thing I want to do is talking about the visual element, right? So part of doing a video interview is looking good on a video interview. You know, you don't want to be sitting there and you're above the screen looking down, you're below the screen looking up. So here's a few things. So first, lighting. You don't want to have shade face. So if you're sitting and all your light is coming from one angle or it's coming from behind you, you're going to have shadows on your face and that's not going to look good. You don't want that. So facing a window with natural light, or you can get a ring light like this. So I have a ring light. I use a ring light when I make videos, and it's kind of an easy way to make sure that I'm lit the right way and I don't get shade face. The next one, comb your hair, shave, you know, put on makeup, etc. Just be camera ready. The fact of the matter is, you are on video, you want to put your best foot forward. I would do whatever you would do visually if you were going to an on-site interview. The next, what you're wearing. Don't wear plaid or a busy pattern. I would also say don't wear white or black. Now, I have a background in which black is fine, but if you wear black or white and your background is white, you're gonna look kind of like a blob. So a solid color is the best way to go. So I would recommend doing that, but definitely no plaid, no heavy patterns that are gonna be distracting. Background. So the next thing I would do is I would have a plain background. So even a background like this, I probably wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do a background with a video there, a window there. I wouldn't do a background that had a bookcase. I know people, for whatever reason, love to have bookcases in the background. Like the person interviewing you is gonna go, oh my God, they read? That's not gonna happen, okay? So a blank wall, no more than one piece of art. You know, that's how you want to have it. You know, professional, plain, keep the focus on you. The next thing, back up. You don't want to be too close. So a lot of people make the mistake of getting too close, and if you do that, it's going to look weird. So an arm's length out from the camera is probably an appropriate distance for you to be from the camera. And then last thing, eye level. So when you're looking at the camera, you want to make sure it's right where you're sitting naturally. Not too above, not too below, that's a mistake. You want to make sure that you're looking directly at it and it's line eye. You know, it's eye to eye. And there you have it. That's everything you need to do. The last thing, and I'm gonna drop a link below in the description, but I made a video on trying not to be nervous. For whatever reason, people tend to be more nervous with Zoom videos, whether it's the element of technology, maybe they're not used to, maybe it's that people can see you. Whatever it is, people have a tendency to get a little bit nervous when it comes to these Zoom or Skype interviews, and being nervous, that can throw you off your game. So don't be intimidated by it. If you haven't already done this, you're probably gonna have to do it more and more as remote work becomes more prevalent, as long as as COVID's going around and is a thing, and then past COVID, if you're watching this years from now and you're lucky enough to be able to go out and enjoy doing things, you still might have video interviews from time to time because remote work is here to stay. So those are my tips on how to nail your next Zoom interview. I appreciate you stopping by. Again, which one of these tips do you think makes the most sense for you? Which one was a little bit surprising? Leave it below in the comments. If you haven't already, subscribed, and thank you for stopping by.